Where do emotions come from? The elements of emotions are influenced by the limbic system, which comprises a grid of interrelated areas in the brain. Emotions and behavioral reactions are influenced by key components such as the hippocampus, amygdala, hypothalamus, and limbic cortex. Different neural networks can induce identical emotions in the brain. The human brain is certainly the source of emotions. It is how the human brain interprets bodily feelings derived from past experiences. Human feelings involve pleasure, surprise, sorrow, and rage. These are all influenced by distinct core networks at different levels of human actions. According to discrete emotion philosophy, all humans carry an inbuilt set of fundamental emotions that are universally recognized. These core emotions are referred to as discrete, since they are thought to be distinct based on a person's facial expression and related biological functions. Academics have carried out research to establish which emotions are truly fundamental. The power of emotion-driven thoughts. Has anyone ever pondered where his ideas and viewpoints on a specific issue come from? Well, it's not because of the scenario itself, but because of the emotion the situation surfaces. People may not have seen a link between one and the other because the circumstance is mostly governed by reasoning, and emotion is based on human feelings. Yet individual cognition and emotion are inseparably connected. All subsequent encounters, experiences, connections, and setbacks are directly shaped and affected by the emotions one generates from one's life events. The strength of emotion has long been outshined by the power of the thought alone, and it is past time for anyone to recognize the direct link between thought and emotion to rechannel the emotion-based thinking to maximize the real potential in health, wealth, interactions, career, and everything else that composes life as one knows it. People will be able to properly evaluate themselves, modify their perspective, and travel and achieve on the best road for them as individuals if they develop a deeper understanding of their emotions. Emotion-driven thoughts. What is emotion-based thinking, and how does it affect people? Although a few people acknowledge it as such, emotion-based thought is particular human opinions or personal take on each circumstance as they occur, or even before it happens. All have their own set of emotions, sentiments, and reactions to the things that happen in their lives. Has anybody ever observed how different people respond to different situations, events, and actions in their lives? For instance, someone is denied a raise that he had been hoping for. What should be his reaction? It depends on the degree of emotion that the rejection evokes in him, and that emotion is caused by his genuine feelings about the said rejection. What is the best way to explain this disparity? The explanation is simple. Different persons respond differently to different situations in their lives, and as a result, their emotions will vary as well. Individual dispositions toward anger, fear, grief, and other emotions, as well as how they had perpetuated, where they came from, and the different values associated with each, define who they are. Simply said, diverse circumstances in life have separate effects on an individual than on others. These emotional perspectives will color every incident, action, and reaction in human life in the future. They decide what career an aspirant will pursue, the kinds of bonding people will have, and the lengths to which they will attain the short and long-term objectives. In short, emotion-based thoughts will decide how happy and satisfied people are over time. Where do emotions come from? It's important to analyze where emotions and feelings come from to better grasp both this theory and its relevance to people and their lives. It will assist them in observing why they have reacted to a failure in a different way than someone else. So, where do emotions originate? To begin with, people must recognize that they can express the whole spectrum of emotions. People have fear, strength, fury, and tolerance all residing within them. All the emotions are there, but circumstances and surroundings dictate which one emerges in any particular situation. The majority of human emotions result from how individuals are programmed from the moment they are born. Suppose someone has been raised in an environment that is supportive and favorable. In that case, if people are urged to try something new and not be concerned if they do not go as planned, people are more likely to react with emotions consistent with this train of thought when children become adults. If, contrarily, people are instructed as children not to try anything too risky because they would most likely do so, their emotions would be founded on failure. They would assume the worst, their emotions would correspond, and the vibration they emit would assure they are proven to be true. People fear failure for the rest of their lives, even if they are not aware of where it originated from. It will change how they discover the world and what they can contribute to it. So, all have elements of themselves that they would like to improve, whether it's inner motivation, job potential, the depth of relationships, etc. How can individuals reprogram their emotions to begin to live up to their full potential? However, this obligation may appear daunting, as several persons have no idea why they indulge in self-sabotage in the first place. It is not difficult to do. One should begin by becoming more conscious of one's actions, reactions, and other behavioral traits. People can begin to handle the problem in a demonstrative and constructive manner by displaying self-identity. People should analyze the origins of their actions and reactions. By reminding oneself of the circumstances that have influenced their emotions and mindset, people may begin to dispel any negative preconceptions they may have previously held and substitute them with more positive vibes. Also, regularly converting negative emotions into positive ones should be the objective. One should determine how he wants to feel and react, and remember that he can understand the emotional turmoil he is experiencing. Accordingly, people should modify their thought processes to produce a stronger positive mood at any given time. People should remove all negative influences from their life. They must eliminate every negative thing from their life that adds to their negative thinking and emotions. Finally, one should keep in mind that he always has a productive option, regardless of the circumstances. Perhaps not an option in what has occurred, but still an option in how he can respond to what has occurred. People must make a habit of seeing the positive in every situation to the maximum. The feelings that those thoughts transform into reality will help them get through the most difficult situations. What is the purpose of emotion? Emotions play a crucial part in human lives, but for many people, it is too often the incorrect concept rather than the proper placement of reliable information about where people are focusing their creative attention, and therefore what they are making in the invisible realm of mind and spirit. While it may be all right with newborns and small children to allow their emotions to determine their behavior, it is not an indication of spiritual maturity for adults to allow their behavior to be dictated by their emotions. However, even for most individuals who have established a socially responsible degree of emotional and behavioral independence, it is the uncommon person who truly knows how valuable emotions can be in leading them through the process of spiritual upliftment. While the subject of emotions is difficult, it should be provided with some clarity regarding the right function, intent, and usage of emotions to help all grow spiritually. A GPS is proven analogy for understanding emotions' right purpose and objectives. A GPS is a reporting device that shows people where they are geographically positioned at any given time on a visual display. Its function is to help people walk through the steps of getting there and to let them understand if they are keeping on track or veering off. If people stray from the intended path, the device will read just that and begin directing them to get back on track. Wouldn't it be wonderful if people had spiritual GPS devices that could assist them in getting from where they want to be spiritually. People believe that they have something similar, and it comes pre-programmed with the final destination. That destination seems to be the welcome return to God, the Creator, but not simply a return to where humans have originated, as the proverbial river returns to the sea and loses all its unique identity. Instead, it is a return as an individual self-awareness that has evolved spiritually as a direct consequence of being human, and taking up material activities on this planet and believing in free will to make choices along the way, and is prepared to resume evolving forever. So how does this spiritual GPS interact with humans? Can people view textual instructions for making crucial decisions on a screen? Is it possible to hear a voice instructing people to take a right turn while driving? It isn't that simple. On the contrary, it's not as difficult as most individuals believe. People don't need to seek the advice of spiritual masters, spending years studying theology in institutions. All are familiar with communication methods, but they may not have considered how these methods can be used to provide spiritual feedback. Human thoughts or emotions lead the way. If two persons resemble each other, they may have developed the opinion that their sentiments are an unreliable guide, that they have constantly been shifting, and that one cannot really trust them. People's minds and logic, on the other hand, might be trusted. It's all about the head over the heart. While there are valid reasons for not allowing human feelings to dictate their actions, individuals have since learned how important their feelings are in providing feedback on the spiritual course, together with how much of a barrier or distraction the human intellect can become in terms of spiritual growth. Before humans further clarify how they can fall back on their feelings to guide them through life and approach their destination, it's important to remember that emotions are a response or impact of underlying causes. They are simply not free agents who generate emotions on their own. They are induced by other causes. A variety of factors might influence human emotions. Some things are beyond human control, but the majority are within their control, or at least within human ability to control. Earthly food, weariness and sleep patterns, alcoholism, disease, trauma, biorhythms, hormonal changes, childhood memories and connections, and even fragrances and music can be emotional drivers that affect how one may feel. These are all examples of common emotional generators. Understanding what human emotions represent can be difficult, mainly because several confounding causes exist. The most significant discovery about emotions is that one can separate feelings from behavior. People don't have to be emotional reactors on being an autopilot. All emotions are automatic reactors within themselves. There are two frequent ways of reacting to emotions, both undesirable. The first is to deny and conceal them. The second is to externalize them in human behavior, to exaggerate them by letting everyone else know how they are feeling. There is a third and far better option. People feel them, watch them, and benefit from all emotions without accepting or denying them. What is emotional trauma? One may assume he is approaching a slippery, congested junction. Just the thought of falling and tumbling is sufficient to signal the brain to act. When people are presented with danger, their brains are physiologically programmed to react quickly. The fight or flight reaction prepares the body for a massive muscular effort, with every iota body's system supporting it in the process. So what occurs in the human brain when it switches gears? People may consider themselves on a roller coaster which is about to take off. Their heart starts to pound, palms sweat, arms quiver with irregular breathing, and adrenaline rushes through the body. In essence, individuals are going through the first stage in a sequence of physiological processes triggered by the amygdala, the brain's fight or flight mechanism. Adrenaline is the hormone that generates the secretion. The human body is now prepared to defend itself. The reasoning center of the human brain is turned off to help this emergency response mechanism. People don't have time to think. Muscle reaction takes control and accomplishes what is required to keep them safe. What happens now when the body has been flooded with adrenaline? Endorphins are novel biochemicals that are being released. Endorphins, unlike energizing adrenaline, cause the freeze response, which is a natural analgesic that allows the body to relax. People claim to be in shock, as if they have no idea where they have been or what has happened to them. So what's the big deal about this biochemical rebuttal? Several people who have been exposed to trauma will recover over time. Others will acquire persistent symptoms for a plethora of reasons, which may worsen with time. It's as if the limbic system, which houses the amygdala, short circuits in patients suffers from trauma-related disorders. Every detail of the first trauma, no matter how minor, becomes extremely sensitive. As a result, the fight-or-flight response is repeatedly triggered whenever something in the person's prevailing situation alerts the brain of the arrival of trauma. Now, one can see how tension and, at times, apprehensions can develop without individuals even realizing it. People will retreat and feel alienated and alone as this trend holds, and the symptoms worsen. A re-traumatizing event occurs when an experience ties the brain to a traumatic event. People are just unable to fathom what has just happened. Shame, blame, and wrath is present, and the trauma remains unresolved. The individual remains in the freeze response phase, never reappearing as the same individual. Another way the brain comes to term with trauma symptoms is through dissociation. In psychology, dissociation trauma is defined as a condition when people feel cut off from their senses, personal background, or rudimentary sense of being self. That's why so many people fail to notice that their current situation may be linked to childhood trauma. They could spend their entire lives making decisions based on prior experiences, instead of the best available resources offered by the rational mind. Emotions are easily discernible in self and others. It is as per human subjective perception. This effortless component of recognition has led to the discovery of several basic and universal emotional elements shared by all. However, a disagreement among experts has cast doubt on this specific definition of emotion. A contemporary debate has centered on the evolution of various perspectives on emotion over time. According to fundamental emotion theories, the brain's assessment of an event or stimulus regarding the perceiver's objectives or survival triggers an emotion like indignation, grief, or apprehension. Diverse emotional functions, expressions, and interpretations are thought to be biologically separate from one another. Several basic emotion concepts include that function markers should exist to differentiate different emotions. People should discern what emotion a person is experiencing by observing their brain function and/or physiology. Besides, it should not be important to know what the individual is observing in the context of the increased scale of the evoking event to conclude what the person feels after seeing the biological signs. According to constructionist perspectives, the emotion a person has in reaction to a given stimulus, according to constructionist perspectives, is built from more basic biological and psychological constituents. Core affect, defined by hedonic valence and physiological reactions, and cognitive domain are two theorized elements, such as the semantic translation of the emotion standards themselves, such as the term anger. Most constructionist theories agree that various emotions do not have particular locations in the nervous system or physiological markers. That context is crucial to the emotion an individual feels, since different contexts provide different access to different ideas. Eugene Bann presented the idea that people communicate their emotional awareness through the words they employ around emotional terms. He claims that the more unique language used to communicate a certain feeling, the more specific the emotion's experience, including proprioception, and consequently, the more basic it is. It allows people to choose the parameters that better reflect the whole emotional spectrum. Ekman's 1972 main emotion set, likely the most commonly utilized for identifying emotions, was shown to be the most systematically distinctive. For both practical and theoretical considerations, emotions are classified into one or more dimensions by academics. Descartes describes and explores the 6 major passions in his philosophical musing in The Passions of the Soul: love, hate, wonder, desire, sadness, and joy. In 1897, Wilhelm Max Wundt, the founder of contemporary psychology, claimed that emotions could be classified into 3 categories: pleasure versus unpleasant, stimulating versus disarming, and tension versus relaxation. In 1954, Harold Schlossberg coined the terms sadness, attention-rejection, pleasantness-unpleasantness, and degree of activation to describe 3 aspects of emotion. Dimensional modules of emotion try to define where human emotions belong in 2 or 3 dimensions to conceptualize them. Valence and arousal, or energy dimensions, are included in most dimensional modules. Dimensional scales of emotion propose that a single interrelated neurophysiological system controls all affective states. These ideas are in contrast to basic emotion hypotheses, which claim that distinct emotions come from diverse brain systems.